Hey guys, Hello Bella here. In this video, I'm going to be interviewing John from the Side Hustle Experiment on Instagram. John is a bookseller. He sells on Amazon FBA and eBay, and he's going to kind of tell us about his journey into the world of selling books in bulk. He was originally starting out cherry picking like most people do, and he slowly realized that he could scale his business. And so he's just going to kind of talk to us today about how he's figured things out along the way, and we'll just kind of get into it. So do you want to start off by, I guess, telling everyone sort of where you're at now? Like, what are you working with as far as your warehouse goes?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, like you said, I got started cherry picking. And February 1st, I just got the keys to a 34 square foot warehouse. It has amazing like shelving upstairs, open layout. So I've been before that I was doing bulk out of a storage unit, two storage units, two 10 by 30s. And it was just really tough to coordinate the logistics. Like someone drops them off, someone picks them up. Like the weather gets bad. Like they don't plow the store. Like it's just way too much. And like you also can't. You can only basically do 12 at a time. So that also limits who you could buy from. Freight's really expensive. So yeah, I'm really excited about the warehouse, and it's starting a whole new journey of things I haven't even thought about yet.
Yeah, I saw your kind of like walkthrough video on Instagram of you saying like the upstairs was going to be for like eBay or something like that.
Yeah, it's good. So it's going to be for eBay and some like long-term like merchant fulfill stuff.
Hmm.
So when COVID happened, so I was usually strictly Amazon FBA,
Hmm.
and I didn't really get involved in eBay because like I had a full-time job, and like I was only buying what was good for FBA. So like I didn't need eBay. But
Hmm.
then when Amazon stopped accepting books, I was like kind of like, ooh, like I had two full storage units of
Hmm.
books that were duds per se. And I was like, well, like I had extra time. So I was like, well, maybe I could like start doing eBay. And then like, yeah, it went really well. I think we did close to like 25,000 on eBay and
Wow.
just like random stuff that's found in Gaylords or sets. So I just kept doing it. Like it just
Hmm.
turned out really well.
Yeah, I saw you had an encyclopedia set sell for like $800.
Yeah, that was on Amazon. I think the best eBay sale was like 750 bucks. It was like a Fahrenheit 451 first edition, I think it was. I got it from a free book pickup, like super
Wow. So
random.
that could have just wound up at a thrift store or like thrown in the garbage.
Yeah, like probably wouldn't have scanned it because there was no barcode. And like even if you did put it in the ISBN, it wouldn't be like Scout IQ is not gonna be like, oh,
Yeah,
this is the first edition worth like a ton of money. It's just gonna be like, it's worth $2 or whatever, and like you wouldn't think
that's
anything of it.
crazy. That's crazy. You started getting an eye for it though after a while of looking at so many books.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I think that's one of the biggest advantages of doing bulk. You see so many books. Like, yeah, when you go to the thrift store, like you're scanning or whatever.
Mhm.
But I think when you incorporate eBay into the mix, you really get a feel for like what authors are popular, what kid sets are popular, what you can lot up, what you can't lot up. And like you just see these like constant patterns. It's super
Mhm.
frustrating at first because like you're looking up like I don't know, like this random author, like someone dumped like 30 books from this one author,
Mhm.
and like you got to look it up on eBay, and it's like, oh, this isn't worth anything. That
Right.
it's like 90% of it's not worth anything, but it's like then there's those one times where like you put aside books that look like they're first editions or like they're old or whatever, and
Mhm.
you look it up and it's not valuable at all. But while you're doing the research, like you see the ones that are valuable. So next time you're like, oh, this is the version that's valuable.
That's
So
a
like it
really
really
good
does
point.
help
Yeah.
like really go through it. It's super frustrating. And like I get so many questions on Instagram, like, what do you sell on eBay? I'm just you just have to look it up. Like it's very
Yeah.
hard. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, like now it's just like, oh, like I just get the feeling. I'm like, this could
Yeah.
work, like based on what I've seen.
Yeah, you have to kind of get an eye for it. Like you said, the research sort of happens. Finding out like what's bad helps you find out what's good.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people sell those like sets of fiction books, like Harry Potter sets that are sort of rare-ish, and like even Stephen King has a weird culty following.
Stephen King books, those are probably one of. I haven't done it yet. I haven't been to a thrift store, and I don't even know how long since I've been doing bulk. But like every once in a while, I think maybe 6 months ago, I got the urge, and I went in. I'm like, I like bulk, but yeah, like there are some people, yeah, like when you do bulk, you'll see these vintage Stephen King books, like they're or even the book club editions, they'll
Mhm.
sell for like $50, $60 in like a day. Like
Yeah,
it's so quick.
I've sold quite a few Stephen Kings on eBay. How do you kind of decide what you're going to pull out for eBay versus Amazon with your bulk operation?
So right now it's getting easier. So like when I had the storage unit, it was just like I would go through all the books. I had these like black tubs, probably like 32 gallons, and like I would just toss books in there. And after I was finished scanning for Amazon, I would basically go through like on the floor of this dirty storage unit, put like everything. So it'd be like Magic Treehouse books. Like I put all of them together. Like
Mhm.
certain author put all those together, and then start looking them up on eBay. And if they sold well on eBay, I would see if they're selling on Amazon. So, like for example, like Magic Treehouse books, you can like 1 through 4 sells for like I
Right.
think 195 on Amazon. Not, I mean, it could be worth it, but like probably not if you're at a thrift store, like not worth it because you're gonna pay
Right.
for
Right.
it. But now that I have more space, like it is crazy. So like I have all the shelving upstairs, and I spent like a whole day basically organizing probably like 10 of these black containers full of books.
Hmm.
And I found like probably like $600 or $700 worth of sets. So supposedly like on Amazon, like Magic School Bus or not Magic Treehouse
Yeah,
1 through 28 sells for like $100. I had like 3 of those.
that's
But like
crazy.
since they're just like totally like just stacked, like it's just too hard to organize them in a storage unit and like
Hmm. Yeah.
so now that I have more space, like it's tricky because like you don't want to waste too much time like looking stuff
Yeah.
up. But it definitely goes much quicker now.
Yeah, definitely time is money with books because there's just so many out there to get. How did you kind of like realize that you were tired of cherry picking? I know we talked about this before we went live, but I'm cherry picking now, and I'm to the point where I can go on a sourcing trip and find a lot of stuff, but it seems like those it's not really replenishable, and I feel like I'm kind of like getting to the point where I'm just sick of it all. So, kind of, how did you get to that point?
So it was kind of so basically when I quit my job, I was just like I did bulk with one source and I thought it was working, but after I talked to many more people more experienced than
Right.
me, I was like, this is not working. Like this is too expensive. I'm not doing it right. So I got frustrated. I'm just like, you know what? Like, so what I was doing previously, so when I was working full time, at lunchtime, there was a Goodwill right by my job, like 10 minutes away. So I go there every day during lunch and find whatever I could find.
Hmm.
Then at night, there's like 2 stores that are like 5 minutes from my house. So I go there before going home. And like I'd probably get maybe like 30 to $50, but like you're really not putting that much time in. I mean, like once you go to
Hmm.
the store, like you know it was there yesterday. So it's like kind
Right.
of cool. But it's also super frustrating because like you're sitting at work knowing that like possibly someone else full time is
Yeah.
there like taking the books. You can't really do anything about it.
Mhm.
Um, and then like, so I was already there for all week. So like, it's really not going to be anything on Saturday. So then I was like, I got to start making like finding other thrift stores and figuring it out. So then I would just like literally type in like, I don't know, like a big city where I am and
Mhm.
put thrift store. Usually, so what I found with doing all the research is like where there's a thrift store, there's usually like 8 or 10 within like 20
Yeah,
or 30
yeah,
miles.
agreed. They're in clusters. You're in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm
So
in
like,
Alabama, so there's not that many of them here. I have to go to another area to like really get my money's worth for the trip.
yeah, so like so yeah, you just figure it out. So like there's like Lancaster, which is usually pretty good. Like I feel like I'm in a good spot. Like you go to Philly in about an hour and a half. You get to Baltimore in about an hour and a half, depending on where you're going. Um, you can go to Jersey, which is like 2.5 hours. DC is very close. So like you could hit a lot of different areas.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of what happened. So I had about like 10 different areas that I'd go to, actually probably closer to 20. And I was like, oh, what I'm gonna do, like I have more time, like I could easily
Hmm.
get more books. And then like I did all the routes in like a week. And I was like, man, like this is not gonna work. Like
Hmm.
full time. Like I need to like do something else. So I kind of like went back into bulk kind of out of necessity. I mean, I
Hmm.
was doing like free pickups, but I don't know. I just don't like. I mean, I did sell like a $750
Yeah,
book for free pickup, but that's
yeah,
very rare. Let's just say
yeah.
that you need a lot more junk. When you're working at a storage unit, it creates more problems for you. So when I was working at a storage unit, I'd get like 12 Gaylords. I'd go through them, and that would whittle down to about like 8 or 9, and someone would pick those up. So what happens is like you kind of have like a second storage unit for like kind of overflow, like eBay sets, like your pallet jack, like all that kind of like stuff that overflows, and extra Gaylords. And so I had like a week. So I had a week to scan all of them, get them all removed, and then like basically start over. So like if you're doing free book pickups, what happens is like a lot of it's duds. So the person picking them up can only take 9. So you have like 10, like then you start to have a problem because like you have to do something with that other Gaylord
Hmm.
for all the other ones come. So it creates like a lot of issues.
Right.
Um,
I'm assuming for
so
every really good pickup, there's 10 really just so and crappy pickups that are, I mean, it's free stuff, right?
yeah, it's all free, but it's just a lot of work and
Mhm.
it's I don't know. It's just for me, like I know a lot of people like preach it. And I mean, it's a great way to get started. I mean, all the people say like if you have time, you got to use that. If you have money, then like yeah, you can source better and like maybe be more selective. But yeah, I mean, for me, like the free book pickup, like a lot of people actually during COVID, which is very interesting to me. Like a lot of people want to drop off now. And I'll do that because like
Mhm.
for me, like they could come to the warehouse now, or I'd meet them in front of the storage unit. Like I don't have to go anywhere. Like it wasn't. But like you have to start traveling places, like lugging the books in and out, and like then you have like all the boxes. Like you gotta like throw those away. Like it just creates like a lot of issues.
Yeah, yeah. And for the most part, unless you hit on someone who is like in academics or something, most people have like a collection of fiction books.
Yeah, that's kind of what I realized is like so it's like a very tricky balance in a way because like I like create a website and I was just like, oh, like we'll take donations and we'll also buy books. But it creates like a mixed message. Like the people who like should be free book pickups want to get paid, and like 1 out of 20 people actually have stuff that's worth buying.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's always just luck. But for me, like the whole bulk thing was just like one, like I'm competitive, but in a weird way. Like I don't like going to a store and seeing someone else scanning. Like I just don't. Like
I
it
don't
like
either.
kind of
I don't
freaks
either.
me out. I'm just like, oh, are they traveling? Like, are they new? Like, because like you get into your pattern, you're like, oh, like
Hmm.
this store is good for this many, and it's just like, oh, like this is gonna mess up the flow.
Hmm.
But like the nice thing about bulk is it is hard to get started. To find like a good source, you got to find someone to take them away. You need like at least a pallet jack. Like you need the storage unit. I mean, I know some people do them out of their garage, but I was
Hmm.
you'd have to have a bigger garage. But like, there's just a lot of obstacles to overcome.
Hmm.
Well, I got to go through like 2 suppliers until I found the one I have now. That's very good, and I'm looking to find 1 or 2 more. But now it's just works great. Like once you have the systems in place and like basically I had the systems in place, let's say that. Now that I have the warehouse, like it's like changed everything. So I kind of look at it like when you're working on a storage unit, like there's only so many ways you could do something. Like there's only so much space. Like I had it down, like the system I had like worked. Now you have all this other space, like you have a much bigger expense, so like you need to get more books. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be exciting, but like now it's
Mhm.
like okay, like now you had it all figured out. Now it's like time to figure it out all over again.
Yeah, I'm assuming you had to change a lot of your processes in order to kind of scale it out. What are some of the like? Did you run into any obstacles when you were choosing like where to get a store or where to get a warehouse? How big were you going to go? Things like that.
Yeah, it was rough. I thought like so I've been like I found like a couple apartments like before and like it was like I'm like a master researcher. Like I create a Google Doc, like blah 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 blah. Like there's a location, the phone number, there's a little note section like, oh, I like that they have a pool. I like that like good.
Hmm.
I thought it'd be like the same thing for finding a warehouse, and like that was not the case.
Yeah.
Um, I dealt with so many brokers.
Oh yeah. Commercial space is so different.
Yeah, and everything like it's super easy to find anything over like probably 8,000 square feet. You could probably find something 5. But I mean, like that was like just huge. I mean, it was just crazy. So everyone I talked to, like the smaller places were like occupied and like people were about to leave, but like they weren't ready to leave. And then there was another space that was like needed a lot of work. So like how it works is like if like for books, you pretty much need like an open floor plan. So
Hmm.
like you could ask like the landlord or like when you work with a big company, you could be like, oh, like could you knock down this wall? Could you do this? Could you do that? And they'll be
Hmm.
like, yeah, but you're gonna pay for it and we're gonna build it into your lease.
Hmm.
So like it's almost not
Not really worth
worth
it.
it. And you gotta sign like a 3-year term, which is kind of if you work with bigger companies, what I found out is if you need more space, as long as you rent a building from them, they'll let you out of the lease.
Hmm.
Um, as frustrating as it was probably the best thing that happened because like you get to see a lot of spaces. Like there was this one garage that I saw on Craigslist that I thought like I wanted like really bad. It was like 1,700 square feet. It was like 5 minutes from my house. Like
Hmm.
I knew I'd only be there a year, but I was just so tired of working on the storage units. Like it's
Hmm.
cold here. It's like 20 degrees. Like so like and then I was just like, you know what? That's gonna be the backup plan if everything else falls through. I'm gonna give it like 2 months or whatever. And then like I couldn't find anything for 2 months, couldn't find anything. And like I was getting closer. Like there was a space that was really close, but like it was just it was going to be 4,000 square feet and like all the math checked out, but then the real estate agent had the wrong info. It was like 5,800 square feet, so then like the cost just got out of control. And like
Hmm.
for anyone looking for a warehouse, it's like you're in real estate, right? Or you used to do real estate?
Yeah, I was. I'm still kind of playing around with it. I'm trying to, well, I'm thinking of buying another rental property, but
Nice.
it's just, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, so with commercial, it's like when you rent an apartment, it's like it's $900 and like you're gonna have
Right.
to get cable and this or that. But like when you're doing a warehouse, it's like, oh, it's $5 a square foot. But then they're like, oh no, like there's cam on top of that, there's taxes on top. So like your $5 is now like $9.
Mhm.
And so there you just learn a lot. And then like I went back to the garage originally and he's like, I have someone interested. And I was like, oh my,
Oh,
like that was back, like, gee, like, how is this even
yeah.
possible? Like, I was like distraught. And then, weirdly enough, 2 days later, I go on Craigslist and see, like, so now when I'm like driving around, I'm like, oh man, that would be perfect. Like, that's exactly what I need. Like, And like it turned out for me, like, yeah, like having like a dock would be nice.
Hmm.
But what I thought would be best is like basically like two like basically huge garage doors. Basically
Hmm.
like almost like auto mechanic, but like the doors are like 16 feet tall and
Yeah,
like it's tough to go
yeah,
in and like open.
yeah. For those of you guys watching, it looks kind of like a shop. I mean, it's just kind of
Yeah.
like it's just a big open space.
Yeah, it was the guy's actually it was like his I don't know, almost like wood shop, I don't know, getaway. Like he had like antique cars in there and stuff. And like sure enough, like it was on Craigslist and like, Craigslist could be a little sketchy, so treaded lightly. But like the
Mhm.
guy was super nice and like we literally within 24 hours like wrapped up the deal and like it was like the perfect spot. Like
That's
I was
great.
like, I can't believe it. Like I still can't believe it.
When did you move in there? Like this in the past couple of months?
February 1st, so 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. So
It
the last
looks like
watched
yeah,
you,
it's
you were
crazy.
I think your last interview, like back in April, I think it was with Romer. You said you were gonna buy. You were like talking about you want to get a warehouse. So, like,
Yeah.
I guess how has everything changed for you so far?
So far it's been a little of a struggle. So for me, I'm more of I need to learn by doing. Like I can't really map something out and like, oh, is this many square feet? Like this is gonna go here. That like I need to like work through like the books and like figure out like where I want stuff. So I'm doing that now.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like with more space becomes more options and more layouts and so right now like what will change is well I'm buying a bunch of equipment. So I'm getting a forklift in 2 to 3 weeks and I'm getting a tilter. So a tilter will like dump the books onto
Right.
the table so you don't have to bend down. It's so much quicker to
Hmm.
sort through them because like you don't have to bend. They're all in front of you, and you just like toss in front all the books into like Gaylords how you want
Hmm.
to sort it. Um, so yeah, once I have the layout for that, it'll be much easier. And then like I quickly realized like I need to hire someone to help scan because like I'm about to buy a truckload and like doing the math, it's like, well, like if you could do 12 Gaylords in about like 2.5 days,
Hmm.
having like a whole truckload, like that's gonna take you by yourself like 2 weeks and like introduce all sorts of other obstacles. So I finally found someone, I think yesterday.
Hmm.
So he'll start in like a week or two. And I still
Yeah.
have someone listing the books from her house. So it's like kind of like a whole juggle. Eventually
Yeah.
everything will like go out of the warehouse, but for now, like try to just keep like the things that are working in place until like every I can get everything like situated.
There's a lot of moving pieces to it. I feel like that just kind of have to be worked out as you go. It's not
Yeah.
like you can figure it all out overnight. But with this, as far as like hiring someone to make you twice as fast, essentially, Amazon is like the name of the game is to get as many books there as you can.
Yeah.
So if you're able to have someone come in and help you scan in twice as many books, theoretically, you could scale your business twice as much.
Yeah, that was kind of one. So when I first started, when I got my very first Gaylord, it was funny. So like, there was actually another person who used to sell books. He was probably like 30, 40 minutes away from me. And I don't know, we just started talking on Instagram. And so like my like grand plan for buying these first batch of Gaylords would be to rent a truck, scan all of them in one day, take put the winners in the storage unit, and then take all the duds and bring them to a Goodwill all in the same day. I was like, I can't do that by myself. Like, I need someone to help me. And
Mhm.
like, so for me, like, my family's all New York, so it's not like I could be like, hey, like, brother and sister, like, come like
Mhm.
help out, or like, a lot of my friends here also live like 30, 40 minutes away, and they have
Mhm.
like jobs, like regular jobs.
Yeah.
So I got him to come and help me, and like we were able to do it. I think we did 8 in yeah the full day, And like we didn't have tables or any, like it was a disaster. We were putting like the duds in like medium-sized Home Depot boxes, like they were breaking, like it was a mess. But like we got through it or whatever. And then like I was like, oh, like if I could just get someone. But then like in the storage unit, like it's really hard to have like two people there.
Moving around and stuff.
Yeah, and since now that I do eBay, like it's hard to like explain to someone like how to do that and not be there. So like I'm like once I get a space, I'll get someone and then like we'll go from there.
Yeah. Was it I'm a terrible micromanager. Like I like everything done a certain way. So it makes it really difficult to like entrust other people with things. Like was it hard for you to hire someone to be your lister, or had you just gotten to the point where you're like, I have to do this?
So a couple of things. So I got to the point where like I have to do this. So like the schedule, like I said before, was like I had to scan all the books. It took about like 20 hours to do that. Then like you have to condition and list them. Like that would take like another 10 hours. So we're already at like 30 hours for the week. Then there's eBay, which could take anywhere from like 10 to 15 hours to go through it, sort through it. Then you got to like get like in contact with the dud person, get that situated, everything like boxed up, sent to Amazon, UPS pickup. Like you're looking at like 50, 60 hours. Like, so like I would literally go to the storage unit, scan everything, and whatever was like positive, I'd bring home, sort, grade, and try to get into a shipment like that night. It was like the craziest like days
Yeah.
ever. Because you like when you have like a little space too, it's not
Mhm.
like you could bring home like 30 boxes, just like, oh yeah, we have all these tables, so just drop everything off.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to
So
prioritize.
yeah, it happened. Someone I worked with, I used to work with in my last job, I like did on Instagram, I was like, oh, like ask me anything or whatever. And she's
Mhm.
like, are you hiring? And I was like,
Hmm.
like, so what she does at work, she does like a lot of things, but part of her job is like shipping stuff to trade shows. So she's like super familiar with like UPS and like kind of how like shipping and packing and like stuff like that works.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, like for me, like, yeah, I'm someone who like loves to work. I'm like very hands-on and like, so like it was kind of like, oh, like I don't know, like how do I was
Yeah.
like, whatever, like I'm just gonna go over there, like we'll hash it out and like I'll bring a batch and like we'll just kind of like hash it out and like see how it goes.
Mhm.
And like it was great. Like she does a really good job. Like I dropped them off. She's like, oh yeah, I got it. Like, oh I got it. And then like it was just one of like the biggest lessons is like you need help. Like it was like I'm used to doing everything, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like I created a timesheet for myself, like it's in your Google Docs." I'm like stuff that I didn't even like think about,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
done. And, like, all right, like this is
Yeah.
great. So yeah, it's been
Well,
like a huge help, especially like trying to find the warehouse. Like you could only do so much
that's very
if
true.
you work like, all the time.
Yeah, no, I was reading this book the other day and it was like, no gigantic company is a company of one person. It's like
Yeah,
impossible. You have to have someone to help, someone to be there, especially if you're going to run something that gets bigger and bigger as you go. So you have a lister, and then you have someone coming in to scan with you now.
yeah. I'll have someone just coming to me with the scan probably in a week or two. So like I didn't want to bring him in. So I was gonna have him come in and then I'm like, you know what? Like I need to figure out like the best way to scan these books in the warehouse and like figure out almost how to introduce someone into it.
Hmm.
So like it's a tricky situation because like the process I'm doing now is all gonna change once I get the equipment. So it'll get better. So today it was actually like after like mapping it all out and like thinking through it for like 3 or 4 days, I finally figured out I think like the best way to do it and like how to incorporate another person. I think
Gotcha.
that's been the biggest change for me. And like I know you ventured out into like different areas besides just books, but it's like it almost feels like I've done OA and some other dabble in other stuff, but like it almost seems like you're not working. like even like you're planning like how to do this, but it's like, well, you're not scanning books, like you're not sending out packages, like you're not, but like that's almost like the most important part in order to get to that. So like that's been like a very like hard thing for me because like I'm not much of a planner and like I kind
Hmm.
of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Um so that's been like kind of hard to be like, no,
Yeah.
like you need to sit down and figure this out, or like you'll never be able to hire someone.
Yeah, like logistics like really has like no monetary value that you can say like, okay, I scanned X amount of books and they're gonna make me this much profit. You can't be like, I sat down with a notebook and went over all of my problems for 4 hours.
Yeah, and like because the first like 2 days I did it, like I kind of had like I remember the scene. So there's like a Netflix documentary about like I don't know if you've seen it, but like basically how Ray Kroc like took McDonald's and made it to like how it's gonna be. And like basically how McDonald's like almost set up their like process is they
Mhm.
went to like a big empty like parking lot
Oh,
and
I've
they
seen
drew
that.
in chalk like, oh, like the station's gonna be here. And they would turn and they look at each other and be like, no, that's not gonna work. Like that's too close. So that's
Mhm.
basically what I did. Like I was like trying to envision, like, you know what, the tilter's gonna go here. I was like,
Mhm.
no, like it has to be turned around, like just kind of going through like the motions. And like the first day, like it just didn't make any sense to me.
Mhm.
And then today it all just kind of like finally clicked. I'm like, okay, like it has to go there. Like we're gonna just work our way around. And now it's like, okay, like this will work. Now I
Yeah.
can bring someone else in. I think that's like the hard part. It's like you want to know like what to tell them what to do, or like you just don't want to be like, hey, like figure it out or whatever. Especially like I haven't worked with this person before. So like the
Mhm.
list like I've worked with for like 3 or 4 years. So like we just like text back and forth. She's like, should I do this? Should I do that? Like it's real simple.
Mhm.
Like, she knows how like I want to work. I know how she works. So like she's very independent. I'm kind of like very independent. So like
Mhm.
once I know like you're doing a good job, I'm like I don't really want to know anything unless there's like a
Yeah.
big problem.
Yeah, you take the stress away. As far as like you're really active on Instagram, do you feel like seeing other booksellers on Instagram like kind of gave you a vague idea of how it would go?
Yeah, so for Instagram, I definitely want to like post more and do stuff like that. It's just a very I don't know. So like I've been to a couple conferences, and as you like go into the Facebook groups and you start to learn like people, there are a lot of huge sellers that are not on Instagram, they're not on Facebook, they're not in these groups. And like I kind of think I'm like, huh, maybe it's because they're not in these like social media that like they're so
Mhm.
big.
Mhm.
And it's just one of those things where like it's great to like be able to text them and like talk to them, but like I think the biggest problem really with Instagram is you don't see all the numbers exactly, like, and it's hard because like there's really not great, I mean there's like things you can do to track your numbers, but like it's hard to get them all in one spot and like really know for sure how much you made, like what's
Yeah, I
going
I
on.
relate to that a lot. I've had months where I'm like, "Am I even making money? Like, I worked all month. Did I even make any money?" Like,
Yeah, and it's just like, well, there's like plenty of money in the account. Like, am I missing? Did like a credit card not hit, or like, is this like legit? And like, it always was, but it's just like it's very hard to almost. I think like you could relate to like it's like you don't want to go to like Walmart or you're on your sourcing trip that you're going on. I mean, I came back with nothing. Like you don't want to post that on
no.
Instagram. But, like it's important to know because it happens like more than everyone would like to believe.
Mhm.
Like to work out of the storage unit, like no one wants to hear it took like 20 hours to scan through all the books. Like, they just want to see all the packages going out and like the
Yeah.
big sales that come from it. And like I think that's like I've been more, I guess, persistent when people are asking me, hey, I want to get into bulk. Like I'm like, why do you want to get into bulk? Like, do you have like 5 grand? Because like You're
At
gonna have to
least.
pay for books. You're gonna need a storage unit. Like you don't need $5,000 to start, but like you have to be able to lose at least two because like you're gonna get a bad source.
Hmm.
Like that's just how it goes. Like that's how you learn.
Hmm.
Or like the first one will be good, but the second one won't be. Like you're gonna need a pallet jack. Like you need someone to take away like the bad stuff. Like there's just a lot that goes into it. And like I never want to be like, oh, yeah, do it, and then like,
Hmm.
oh, I don't have any money for.
Yeah, they'll be like, I lost everything because of John.
Yeah, I'm just like I don't want that. So like I'm just like I don't know. Like you have to do what's best for like your situation or people. Like, oh, I want to get a warehouse. I'm just like,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. Like
the reason
again, like
that
I
I like,
paid for like a whole year. Like basically, like when I quit my job, I had like 6 months to survive. Whether the Amazon business did nothing, and like I was lucky. Like it did really well, and like it doubled, and so like I just keep rolling the money like into the
Mhm.
business, whatever. I take very little out because like I don't really need that much, but yeah, I think that's a big like misconception is like you're just gonna do this and then I mean that's what I thought, like based on what I saw on Instagram. Like,
Yeah,
oh, like you just like go to thrift stores and then eventually you get like a warehouse in like a year and then like you just like making all this money, like selling all these courses and
yeah,
like life is great. And it's just like
yeah.
it's not
Well,
like that.
the final form of any Instagram guru is to sell courses.
Yeah, I mean I bought them and like I think they're good. I mean like I don't know, like I don't think I'd ever do a course. Like maybe I do like consulting or something, but
Yeah,
like
I've said that too. I've said like, my time I don't feel like should be free to everyone, especially when they start asking you some really in-depth questions, and you're like, ask me on a date first. Jeez, like,
yeah, and like I do, and then I sometimes do think that like I get probably like I'm not big. I don't even think I have like 2,000 followers on Instagram, but like it's a very engaged group. Like I get like 5, 6 DMs every day with like questions about like from anything, like how much do you pay for books, like what should I do for this, what do you think this, or like what do you think that, and I'm always happy to answer them. It's like it's just very hard for me. Like that, like I almost feel like you have to talk on the phone or something because everything's very situational. Like when
mhm,
like Caleb Roth, like I would consider him like a mentor, the book flipper.
mhm,
When I reached out to him, because like he's great with numbers, like so good with numbers. So like when I was considering starting my full time job, I was like, hey, like, you think we could talk for like 20 minutes? Like, because like some people are like, oh, do you think I should quit my job? I was
mhm.
like, I don't know. Like, do you have any like kids? Like, how much you need to make? Like, I don't know. I do like $10,000 a month. I'm just like, well, like, how much did they pay you out of that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like, it all depends how you live or what you want to live. Like, do you have
right.
like 3 or 4 months? And like, it was pretty funny because he was just like, well, like, what's your financial situation? I was like, well, I have like, 6 months living expenses, like already situated in a savings account. I have about like, I don't know, like 15 to 20K like capital, like ready to like, buy stuff. He's like, wow, like, no one ever says that. Like it's like, oh, like, like I just think I could double my sales and like I'll be fine. And it's just like
Mhm.
I think like a lot of times like and it's hard because like Instagram does not promote that per se.
Yeah, I think you have to cut teeth as a bookseller for a little while, just grinding it out, before you should consider, bulk, like you said, because it's like if you're selling cherry picking, you could go to the thrift store all day long and maybe spend $100 all day of sourcing, with buying bulk, you're spending, what, at least a couple thousand a month on inventory.
Yeah, probably anywhere from like 2 to 3,000, just out of the storage unit. And like, yeah, it's a lot. Like to, it was like an adjustment. So there was this one person I used to deal with. He had like really good quality books. Like, but I remember sitting in like the Salvation Army parking lot. Like, I forgot how I even got connected to him, but he called me and I was just like, oh yeah, it's like $2,000 for like 10 Gaylords. I'm like, shit, like I don't think I've ever spent that much in a month.
Mhm.
Like like I had the money, but I was like, whoa, like this, like
Yeah.
not that like no one wants to lose $2,000. I was like, huh. But then like once you do it, it's just like you start to get used to it. Like the numbers
Mhm.
get bigger like as you scale, and like
Yeah.
$2,000 is a lot of money, but then like once you start buying like truckloads, it's like, oh, I remember I used to just spend like $2,000 or like
Yeah, you become desensitized to the amount almost. I feel the same with sourcing retail arbitrage because I used to be primarily books, and now I'm like almost more retail stuff now, like going to TJ Maxx and Ross and things like that. And like the amount of money I was spending there, I will see people looking at me like seeing the total, and I'm like, I just don't think about it. Like if I thought about it, I would go crazy.
yeah, like people on the line all the time at the thrift stores I'd be buying, they're like, oh my god, I'm like, oh, swipe it, like, no, like I know, like this is worth like 3 times the amount,
Yeah.
4 times the amount. Do you
Or
like
the
doing like retail arbitrage better than books?
I don't. I mean, I've got books all behind me that I'm going to process tomorrow. There's just no returns like books. Like, there's nothing that you can make that much money on. I can definitely make money, like, I guess, easier with retail arbitrage since I'm not doing bulk. And that's one of the things I've kind of had to wrestle with. Like, I have the space in my on my property to make like a not a warehouse, but like you said, like sort of the garage situation where I could
Yeah.
drive up the truck and get everything out. But I mean, it would definitely be like probably a $30,000 building that I have to build on my own
Yeah.
property. But like in the long run, I'm sure it would pay for itself in multitudes.
Yeah, I guess you could always rent it out if you wanted to. Like that's one thing I did learn is like when looking for real estate, like it's like that, like the space I have, like you don't see it like anywhere. Um, so like when I was actually like getting so frustrated, I was thinking about like almost getting like twice the space I needed and like getting a sublease because like I knew like
Hmm.
there is no 4,000 square foot spot. So like someone would take it because like there are a lot of people looking for it. Like I see it in the Facebook groups, like the local groups, and like so I'm like,
Right.
yeah, someone would definitely rent that. But then I was like, oh, I don't know if I like want to be like a landlord and like
Yeah.
do
Well,
all that stuff.
it's kind of like you see a problem because it's your problem and then you solve it for somebody else.
Yeah, I honestly think there's like a big future for it's hard because like a lot of people say like like the Amazon community, like if you go on Instagram, you think like everyone's an Amazon seller. But like 99% of the population is not. But I honestly think there could be like a good potential business idea if like it was like a huge warehouse and like there was like almost like a shared forklift, like shared pallet jack, like
Mhm.
basically shared everything. I mean, obviously like there'd have to be some like secrecy if you're doing like wholesale and stuff, but like for the
Yeah.
majority of like people, like you could do so many different things that
Yeah.
like
Kind of like one of those startup buildings where they have a bunch of different businesses in one little co-working space.
yeah, I think that could be like a big thing
That'd be
eventually.
cool. I mean, I know where I live, there's not just a ton of people who are booksellers, but I have a lot of friends locally who are resellers. So we'll talk about things and we'll be like, man, I wish I could do this or that, or we're just not there yet, like in our stage
Yeah.
of reselling, I guess. So it's kind of like you have to figure out like when is the right time to take the leap. It's so hard to do it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things too that like I struggle with. Like you see a lot like about wholesale and like online arbitrage and lead groups and cook groups and like you never feel like you're doing enough and like there was like a time like probably during COVID because like I had the most time and like
Mhm.
my supplier one of them stopped delivering and then the other one was having trouble getting stuff. So like I was like, oh, I'm gonna do OA. Like I took like a course and like I'm doing it. And like I've done that for wholesale too, like probably like a year when I first started, I was like, ooh, that sounds good. And like what you quickly realize is like it's the same, right? Like it's just as hard to get to the level that like these huge sellers are at. Like whether you're doing books, whether you're doing RA, whatever you're doing, like it's
Mhm.
gonna be hard, right? So like OA was great at first until I was like, oh, like some of this stuff's starting to tank. Like, oh, like
Mhm.
for books, like I know because I know books. Like I've been doing it for 3 years. But like for this stuff, like I'm like, yeah, I know how to read a Keepa chart, but like maybe not for like an OA item.
Right.
So it's like, oh, like, yeah, this is hard. Or like, so
Yeah.
like, I feel like, yeah, I spent some time like jumping around and like, it's been great because like I apply like some of the wholesale stuff I learned to like, you really have to read Keepa charts there. So that's helped a lot for books because like some of the
Mhm.
long tail stuff, like you really have to look. Um, but yeah, I feel like I spent some time like jumping around, like, oh, like
Yeah.
a course is coming out about wholesale. Like these guys do like $20 million, and it's just like, oh, like maybe I should consider that. But like, it's like, no, like,
And you find out
really
it's like
books for
10%
like,
profit.
right, and like, yeah, you don't know exactly, and then there's like screenshots of their student sales, and like, and it's funny for me because like before I was like a full-time direct response copywriter, so I would write all these sales pages. Like I know like why they're saying what they're saying, and like how
Yeah.
they're like guilting you into it, and like
Marketing.
yeah, they're playing to your emotions. It's really funny to see. Well, not really funny because like some people
Yeah.
really,
I,
but like just to see, I'm like, yeah, I know what you're doing there.
I think you can see it if you're looking for it, but if you're not looking for it, it just seems like this golden opportunity that nobody else is doing. And why is everyone else not getting into this? And you could be the one who becomes rich.
Pretty much, and like that's kind of how I look at. So books, I think. So I've had like mixed emotions. Like I like books. I think it's a lot of work, but that's almost one of the reasons
Amen.
I like it
Amen.
because a lot of people won't put in that work. Secondly, I think so. I do books and media, so I want to do a lot more media this year. So I really worked hard last year trying to like, especially during COVID, finding like how to get more out of the Gaylords, whether it's selling on like Facebook Marketplace, selling on eBay, selling wherever,
Mhm.
because it's almost like free money. So like when I do all the Gaylords, whatever sent to Amazon, so I spend like $1,000 on the Gaylords. If I send 1,000 books to Amazon, each book's $1. So anything after that, like I almost look as free money because like
Mhm.
I'm making my money because like it's gonna double, it's gonna quadruple 5x or whatever. So anything
Right.
else is like kind of extra. So
So
if I
you
want to
figure
go
out
that
a way.
far, I can. So one of the hottest things I found in my area anyway is like DVDs. So like there's like a ton of flea market sellers over here. So in the Gaylords I get like sometimes like there are DVDs in there. And recently there's been like a ton. So now so media comes in here. I don't even count that towards the Gaylord. So that's extra money too.
Mhm.
So
Do you
DVDs,
do
like I'm
do you do
selling like
the DVDs on eBay or Amazon or both?
I sell mainly, so I set up a second Amazon account to sell the DVDs and CDs because I kind of want to have like I heard a lot of people say like, oh, you could get like I was more concerned about like DVD piracy
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So I was like, well, if it takes down one account, like that's okay. Like it wouldn't be the main account. So I was like, whatever, I'll do that. And it's a pain because you need like separate software and stuff, but
Yeah.
it works for me. And like, I don't know, I like it. Like it's another IPI score to have. Like that account has a really high one because like
Mhm.
there's really not much in there. But like I'm making more like selling like the boxes of duds. Like I could get anywhere from like $20 to $30 a Facebook Marketplace for like
Oh, gotcha.
70
Low.
or 80 DVDs.
Mhm.
So like I think that's a big piece of advice like for people. It's like you almost have to build like relationships and like figure out like a secondary market because it makes you a more confident buyer. So there's this one lady whose flea market went out of business and she had like I think it was like she said it was like 3,500 DVDs. It turned out to be like 7,000 DVDs.
Mm.
And she was asking for like I think it was like 2,000. And then she dropped it to 1,000. And I was like, I just sent her a message like, I'll do $500. And she's like 750. And I was like, oh, she's a flea market seller. Like I know Amazon sellers go and like, scan and like it's like
Mhm.
I don't know, like maybe she sells online.
Yeah.
But I
Or
knew
maybe
like
these are her duds.
Yeah, I knew if nothing was good for Amazon, like I would have made $300. Like I could easily get $1,000 for those.
Right.
But if you don't have like someone to like pick up all the duds, like it's a much riskier buy. And $700 is a lot to make up.
Yeah, and to just where am I going to put it? Like it's essentially garbage if you can't find anyone to buy it.
Yeah.
And like you said, you're trying to get this stuff in and out as quickly as possible. So like I guess for your other sources of selling things to people, do you mainly do like Facebook Marketplace, or do you have buyers locally who kind of you have a list now of people you can kind of call to be like, hey, I've got X amount of DVDs or books?
So for the DVDs, I used to have a good bit of people who did flea markets, and then when COVID happened, like a lot of them went out of business or whatever. But recently, so what I do is like I post on Facebook Marketplace, and the post is basically like I don't know, like 20 or 30 boxes of like Home Depot boxes and like some DVDs in front. And it's like, hey, we're Amazon sellers. We mainly do books. We do scan the DVDs. Like these are good for flea market people, eBay people. I don't know, people like DVDs. Like we're looking for a partner. Like you have to come pick them up. Like you got to be like reliable. Like the whole spiel. And then people just like send messages, and like I connected this week with like two like really solid people, and the one is like, I'll buy everything.
Wow.
So like, I mean, we'll see if he buys everything, but
Yeah.
like, I also have a list of 10 other people who are interested, and I just
Mhm.
didn't have supply for them. So I think like, yeah, it's like building those local connections.
Yeah,
And
you're
then
almost like unintentionally becoming another like wholesaler to them.
yeah, and I actually do see that like to maybe get into like wholesale books. So if I bought like a truckload to base like I knew a bigger seller, that's what he was doing. So he would like buy a truckload. He would have if the truckload cost him 1,000, he would sell the Gaylords like half his truckload for like $1,000. That's not the real math, but like
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So then the other half of the truck was free. So he basically got free books
Wow. Yeah,
because
that's
like he
genius.
sold $1,000 worth of them. So
Yeah, and people like me who don't have a source, don't have the means of like really processing that many books, like I'm still going to make money off of it. He's going to make money off
yeah,
of it. So I mean, everybody really wins.
yeah. Then he was also like, he's like, no problem, like because he had a warehouse. He's like, when you're done going through them, bring them back, and I'll recycle them for you. And he was getting paid from like other sources for their
Mhm.
like done recycling. So like he was making all different ways. So like
Yeah.
yeah, because like I used to post like Gaylords of books like for sale, like to get rid of the duds. And like all you get is like, where do you get those books? Like I want fresh ones. Like so like I don't think it would be that hard to find people to buy them. But
Mhm. Yeah. It's
I
just
I want to make sure that like they're legit. Like if I do sell them, like you could at
Mhm.
least double your money.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are marketing on Facebook like that they sell wholesale to resellers, and then they'll sell them garbage, and then they get mad, and it's like a whole thing. But I could definitely see how you could eventually sort of have a business within your business, especially if you can kind of have a way to monetize all these different things. Do you use what's is it Sell Back Your Books also that takes like they'll just give you money for the books?
Yeah. So I use sell back your book. So like when I use Scout IQ to scan everything. um and within Scout IQ there's like a sell back your book box that just pops up. I think you just have to turn on wholesale in the Scout IQ app. And
Hmm.
basically they'll be like, oh, like we're paying 10 cents for this. And then
Hmm.
you just toss it in the well, for other people, like you just put it in a box and they like take it. For I put it in a Gaylord and they'll set up freight to come get it.
Gotcha.
But it's like that's like really good too. Like it's another way to hedge your bet. Like I know for every load, like sell back your book's gonna give me like probably anywhere from 200 $250. So like
Yeah.
that's like a third of the load is already paid for pretty much
What
before
is the
anything
scenario?
happens.
what is the scenario, I guess, where you're doing sell back your book instead of selling on eBay or Amazon? Just a book that's not super high demand?
Yeah, so it's usually like, so I don't really sell any single books on eBay. All I'm selling really is lots. And I've gotten, I guess, smarter because like now I have like 3 or 4 different box sizes. And like if it doesn't fit in those like boxes, like it's a no-go because
Mhm.
of shipping, it's just not worth it.
Mhm.
So a lot of the times, yeah, it's just like one-off books that they want. I mean, it's a lot of classics like To Kill a Mockingbird, like high school books.
Not worth it to send to FBA, I guess.
Yeah, none of it's worth it to send to FBA. Um, yeah, it's just like random books that I guess
Okay.
they could do something with.
Yeah.
So
I guess I kind of wondered like why would you not? But that makes sense. If you're it really is only worth it if you're sending them a lot of uh if you're sending sell back your books a lot of books at once, and it becomes like $250 credit that they'll give you. Um
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's
it makes more sense because you just throw it in there and like they'll just come and that's quick.
you said you use Scout IQ, and what do you use to list?
I use Accelerlist, so I've found that to be like kind of like the easiest for me. I've been using it for a while. I used to use Inventory Labs, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's really built for books. Like Accelerlist was built for books. Inventory Labs for me, like there's just too much lag time between the scan, or there used to be. I haven't used it in
Hmm.
probably a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah. I use it now, but I don't have anywhere near the inventory I'm sure you have.
Yeah, that's where it gets like caught up. Like for OA and stuff, like yeah, it'd be great because like you're just adding like you're scanning it and saying, "Oh, I have like 20 of these," and like yeah, it's super simple, but like
Hmm.
and it just shoots off. But like when you have to do like individual, it starts to like really
Yeah. And I think they're about the same cost. So I mean it really is just like
yeah.
apples to apples at that point, like whichever one you like better.
Yeah, and I think that's like a lot of the thing too with like when it comes down to software, like you just have to do like what works best for you. Like I know a lot of other bulk people are using like a different kind of software and like I don't know, I might give it a try, but like it's one of those things like for right now it's working. And like, yeah, would I double like maybe I have to use that and like Acceleralist would no longer be a good fit, but like yeah, that's kind of like how I kind of operate, like until it's like something's not working or like it's not like I'm not one to be like, oh, like let me test this and do it.
Yeah,
It's just like you're
it's
wasting
a
time.
hassle.
And then that's the other thing you have to like migrate all your data over. Like it's just a pain. Like so if it's
Yeah.
working.
That's probably why I'm still on Inventory Lab. It's just not worth it to move over and relearn everything.
Yeah, that's kind of like they work similar, but like you get used to certain things that, and it's just easier unless like it's really not working for you. Might as well
Yeah.
just stick with it.
And you use Scout IQ for scanning everything, which that's kind of like the standard, I guess, for most
Oh
booksellers.
yeah, I love Scout IQ.
I don't know how I did a book business before that, to be honest with you. I know that I
Yeah,
did.
like it's crazy, just like the technology and like listening to like some of the older sellers like saying that it would be like in a thrift store and then they like call like their like friend and they like look it up on eBay or Amazon and then they'd be like, yeah, buy it or whatever. Or they would like run home and like look it up and then go back to the store to get it and hope it was still there.
Yeah. Yeah. Scout IQ has saved me too with their database mode because, living in like rural Alabama, sometimes I'm walking in someone's basement in their yard sale and like I have no service, but then I'm like, oh wait, I downloaded the entire database before I left the house.
Yeah, that is key, like especially like thrift stores. I never was a fan of library sales, but like yeah, obviously it's good for that. But yeah, like to always have that like at least backup. And it's just so much quicker, especially if you're like in a competitive environment.
Yeah. Do you have like I guess this is kind of just depends on your strategy, but do you have like a certain amount in your inventory that you like to keep, or are you just kind of steadily building it right now?
I think right now it's probably like we just sent out a shipment, so it's probably be like 5,500 in there right now.
And that was a week's worth of work for you, or how long did it take you to process all of those?
So basically, I have to look, but I think it was probably around like 500 books. It took me like probably 2.5 days to
Hmm.
do. Well, 2.5 days, like 20 hours to do. Um, and then the lister probably takes, I don't know, 10 to 15 hours to do it, depending on like how much sorting she has to do. Um, but I was kind of doing it the way I was doing it in the storage unit because I didn't have the process figured out yet. Like I'm
Hmm.
timing this batch and like it's already like I'm like shaving like 20, 30 minutes off a Gaylord.
Yeah.
So it's gonna
So
be much faster.
yeah, when
This
you
one.
get all of your tools that you're gonna buy, how much do you think like your fixed costs are gonna be for all the supplies that you're gonna, or I guess they're not really supplies. What would you call that? Like they're really
Like
like,
you quoted?
yeah, equipment. The loading. You said that was a. Is it called a tilter?
Yeah, the tilter, I actually bought it brand new. That was like $4,000. The
That's not as
forklift.
much as I thought it was gonna be for some reason.
Yeah, so for me, like I'm not very handy. So like I didn't want like something that might break or like any
Agreed.
if my dad lived like down the street, like sure, like why not?
Yeah.
And then the forklift, I'm like doing like a lease to buy. So it's like 250 bucks a month. And
Okay.
then
Gotcha.
yeah, so it will be a good again, like I don't want to get like I've seen so many people get like $2,500 ones, like and then they break. Like
Hmm.
I'm not really into that. Like I'd rather something that just works and I
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah. I
plus
just
like
remember.
that's the nice part about being like a reseller. Like like if it goes wrong, like you could at least resell it and like maybe not get all your money back, but like not get killed.
Yeah. So it has some value. Is that so? You have that those two things? Would you say there's like really the only major buys that you had to make, or I guess you bought shelving too, right?
Well, that actually came with it. So like he already
Oh,
had all that shelving. It was
wow.
funny, when I saw that, I was like, "Holy shit!" I was like, "I'm never gonna ask if I could buy it." And like, he's like, "It comes with it. It's bolted to the floor." I'm like,
Uh,
"Cool, like
okay.
great." Uh, so that, and then I'll have to buy like some tables. My dad's actually gonna come up from New York, and we're gonna build like a bunch of like dumper tables and like pretty much everything. He's like really good and handy
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So they'll probably be like I don't know $500,000, but like that'll be like pretty much set.
Hmm.
It's just one of those things that like you almost have to look at it as like I don't know. It's like weird. Like you get so into it, but like you look at things differently. It's just like, well, like getting that tilter, like one load of Gaylords will pay for that. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it's a lot of
Yeah.
money up front, and like, but like it's gonna go so much quicker. Like you could
Yeah.
probably do like close to a truckload in 2 weeks or like a week, where it's taking you like a week to do 12. So
Yeah.
like,
Plus, you're not killing yourself bending over and over
oh
again.
yeah. Like that's like as soon as I got the warehouse, like I was like, I don't even know, and like a lister, I'm like, I don't even know how I did this. Like without, like I
Yeah.
don't know. Like I guess you just like power through it. But now looking back, I'm like,
Yeah.
like I
That's
don't know.
that's my biggest regret as an entrepreneur is like all the things I didn't do sooner. Just little
Yeah,
things. I'm like, why was I so stupid? Like, why did I not do that?
yeah, and it's just like funny. Yeah, it's just like I guess that's like how you learn, and like you read books, and you're like, well, I'm not gonna be that person, and then like all of a sudden you're like, whoa, like I was the person who didn't hire like a helper early on or whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's like it's a scary like scenario, like right, like like hiring someone like even though like she's a friend or whatever, it's like you don't want to be like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna give you books like every week, and then like they're counting on money or like and then
Yeah.
like this week I don't have any books because like the snow has screwed everything up. So
Mhm.
like, but I mean, whatever, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But like, it's
Yeah.
just like
Little things.
there's that, and like you're like, oh, like what else is like. You
Yeah.
just don't want to disappoint someone, but like, I mean, I guess that's part of business. Like, you gotta
Yeah.
just
I
get
think
through it.
people they overthink some things. Like definitely there's people who go into it with no caution, but then there's other people who overanalyze every little thing. It's like with your warehouse, you don't know what you don't know. Like you're just going to have to figure it out. Like you said, building certain things, where they need to go. How could you know what you needed to build before you got everything in the space?
Yeah, like that's kind of like I can't believe you didn't make a plan, but it's just like you could have like put it all on paper. Then like you get there, you're like, well, like I wasted 20 hours mapping this out because like this doesn't work now that like I'm in here or whatever. And like yeah, I think that's just like it's hard. Like you just learn, and like there's like stuff that like you forget. So like for me, like I'm getting this forklift or whatever. I'm just like, huh. Like I wonder if it comes with like a propane tank. Like it seems stupid. And then like I emailed the guy, he's like, no, it doesn't. Like, oh, like I'm glad I asked. Like
Yeah.
or like there are some things that like you just forget. Like I remember like I think 2 weeks ago someone was like, oh, like could you talk or whatever? They're just getting started. I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, I'm having trouble listing the books. Like how do you do that on Amazon? Well, I
Like
have no
Dollar
idea.
Central?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. Like I haven't used it in like so long. Like it's I
Yeah.
was like, wow, there was a point where like you didn't have software, like you didn't have a scale, like it just you just forget like
Yeah,
how
you
like
really
far
do. You
you've
really do.
come.
Yeah, I think that's where like the mentoring comes in. Like if you do sell consulting, you don't realize how much you know until you talk to somebody who is starting out, and then you're like, oh man, like they don't even know what they don't know. So you are a lot further. I mean, ahead of them. You know, you're still learning too. But
Yeah, it's funny. Like I like tend not to post that much on Instagram because like, oh, like of course everyone knows this stuff or whatever. But then like there's like sometimes like I'll post like I think the other day or maybe not, it was a month ago or something. I was like, oh, like, you know, like put Harry Potter books aside because like you could build a set and then you could sell
Mhm.
them for like, I don't know, $100 or like the price fluctuates like crazy. It goes like anywhere from 80 to like 110 or whatever. And so I was like three people are like, oh, I had no idea. Like I just bought a set at the thrift store for like $5. I was like,
Yeah.
"Huh." Like I guess I should just like put it out there.
Yeah, your Instagram is really good. You post a lot of stuff that is helpful. I feel like not just like not like you said those a bunch of packages going out or something like that.
Yeah, like I really try like hard to like be like or like even though I do have like a good post, like the 200K, it was just like this is hard. Like this isn't like oh
Yeah,
like I worked my ass off to do this. Like I'm one
yeah,
person. It was more like this is what's possible because a lot of people are just like, well, like my source doesn't have this or like the thrift. It's like you gotta like figure it out. Like and I think
yeah,
like I'm always happy to answer questions and like I'm even guilty of it at times. Like I always call it like almost like you're asking like a lazy question. So like
yeah,
you go into the group and you're just like, oh, how I find a source. Like you need to go into the group and be like, listen, I called the thrift stores, I did this, I did that.
mhm,
And so it's much easier to be like, oh yeah, you got don't do that, like do this. But you're
yeah,
like, I don't know what you've done yet. Like
yeah,
what's the situation? Like it's just really hard to answer, like
yeah.
give like really good advice.
And don't ask something that you can Google, obviously. People do that to me a lot, and I'm like, I just delete the message. I hate to be like that, but I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah, like that's like kind of like actually I only block one person and they like would hit me up like every day. They're like, should I buy this? Should I buy that? And then like the one time he's like, oh, you sell DVDs and CDs? I'm like, yeah. And at the time I was using Romer the Romer's like trigger set. And he's like, can you send it to me? I was like, oh, like just Google, like go on YouTube and put it in. He's like, can you send me the link? And I was just like, forget, like that's so like
Yeah,
I'm done with
no, I'm not your personal assistant, buddy.
that. I was like about to do it. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like this is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
you do have to set some boundaries with followers because I do think that they see everything that you do and they think that they know you, but you don't really know them. So it's this awkward dynamic sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do like that's kind of what I like about almost like having a smaller one. Like there's a lot of people that like I would say like I talk to on like a weekly basis, whether it's
Mhm.
like me asking them questions, they're asking me questions, or
Yeah,
like someone who like helped me a lot to get like figure out what's the best tilter to buy. Like he asked me the other day, like, oh, like how can I sell these on eBay? So like you just never know like
yeah, yeah.
how
Some of
you
my
buy.
followers, some of them have given me really good information, you know, like out of the blue, didn't ask them. They're just like, hey, I saw you doing it this way. This is probably a better way to do it. And I mean, I had no clue, you know, it's a collective of information.
A random DM the other day, they're just like, hey, like, thanks so much. Like, I really like your account, like everything you do. Like, this is how to get ungated and like this huge brand. I was
Wow.
like, oh wow, like thank you so much. Like it was just crazy. And like for me, like I'm usually pretty like I usually like I answer every DM, but it's like sometimes you just catch me in a bad mood. I'm just like, oh, like I don't want to answer this question or whatever. Like I was like, I gotta come back to it. But like it's just hard. Like I'm trying to like come up with, and that's why I think I want to start like a YouTube channel. Like I think like oh, what am I gonna do? Like I'm like I just go through all my DMs and just like read my answers.
Just make a video about each one. Like just literally use the title as the question. Like, how do I sell X on eBay?
Yeah, I think I might do that because like yeah, I thought about like writing it, but like I think it's just quicker to do video and like work my way through it.
Just all those little questions, and a lot of resellers will answer the same question, like, how do I do this? But everyone answers it differently. So like sometimes I've caught myself being like, well, I don't need to make this video. This video has already been made, but then I'll click on it and watch their answer. And I'm like, well, that's not really my answer.
Yeah. And I think that's like a lot of the traps I have fell into too. I was like, well, this person's like a big seller. Like, you know, I should be doing it that way. But like, you just don't know. Like, there could be a certain reason. Like, maybe he's left-handed, and like that's why it's set that way. Like, I don't know. But there's one video I watched, and like someone was like scanning books. It sounds like so ridiculous, but like, and they were taking the label. Like, I would like scan the book, like I'd print in the Dymo, and I'd like rip it off, and like put the sticker on. But this person was just like peeling the sticker off and leaving like the back part on the Dymo, and it saves so much time because you're not constantly. I was like, how did I like? I didn't, but like it like.
No, I'm sitting here looking at my Dymo right now, like what?
And like it was so funny because when I was like training the lister, she like ripped it. I was like, no, like you like just pull it off. Like I'm like I just never thought of it, but like. You just never know, like sometimes like what like makes sense. Or, like,
I had a similar discovery last week where I was like, there was some extra step I was having to hit to do something, and I was like, I've got to figure this out because I'm having to hit this every time, and it shaved off like 1 second. But I was like, gosh, can you imagine all those seconds combined? Like,
yeah, it just adds up, and like a lot of the things too. Like a lot of people are like, oh, like. How do you like clean your books, or like what do you do with price stickers? And like I just buy these like little circle stickers on Amazon and like stick them over them. Everyone's like, oh, you don't peel them off. Like, no. Like I spent so much time cleaning books and like doing all this stuff, and like what a waste.
No, I always describe the book worse than it is, and then they're happy when they get it. Like that's my philosophy on it. I don't have time to clean 1,000 books a week.
Yeah, that's basically what I do now too.
So you just cover it up. I've seen a lot of people buy those. It's little circle stickers.
Yeah, it says like I think they say like thank you on it. That's like the key. You can't just get a white one. So if you get a white one, put it on, and like you can still see through it. I think people get like really mad that like, oh, if they saw like a sticker or whatever, the book was like 99 cents. Like I don't know why you would care because like you're happy paying for it.
Yeah.
$12, but yeah, I get like there's these like little things. I can send you the link. They're just like it says like thank you, and they're different.
Yeah,
colors.
I've used those before for Etsy when I was selling on Etsy. Do you kind of have like a goal for this year, or are you just kind of playing it by ear?
I'm sorry. So like yeah, so like I had a really good year last year. This year, like the sales number, like so this year I want to do probably like 350, 400. I'd be happy with that. But I also realize it's like it's gonna be like it's not gonna be that profitable the year. Like it's gonna
Mhm.
be an investment year. Like it's the warehouse, it's the
Yeah.
table, it's the
Well,
equipment is set up for like a bit. I mean, it'll still be a profitable year.
yeah. But you're
Um,
building. You're building right now.
yeah, and I think it's hard to say like because it changes so quickly. Like because now like a lot more opportunity opens up. So like for the Amazon, right? So that 200K, like that was just on the book account. So there was like another 50K that was made on like eBay, like media, like sell
Mhm.
back your book. So like I think like as like that will double like the other
Mhm.
stuff that I do, but
Mhm.
maybe not necessarily the Amazon sales. So
Yeah.
I think like it all depends. Like I think that's the other thing. Like it's not all about like sales numbers
Yeah.
too.
I was gonna say
Because
that,
like
profit is really what matters at the end of the day. Like, what do you walk home with, and how much effort did you have to exert to get it? Because that's another thing. Like, we aren't business owners because we just love working all day.
right. And that's the thing with like the DVDs too. Like last year, I think we did like $5,000 in like dud DVDs, and like someone's just coming and picking them up, and it's cash. So it's like that's not reflected anywhere, like in your
Yeah.
Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could make it part of it, but like I don't know. I think like
Yeah.
that's like, a really big part is like try to find like stuff like that, or like one of the best things that I've learned to do is like to just post like even if you don't have it, like post like a bunch of like take a picture of Home Depot boxes and be like, oh, I have all these DVDs or whatever. And people will reach out to you. Like the people who buy them also sell them. So like you could try to be like, hey, you like sell in bulk too? And you could
Mhm.
like try to find a source that way.
Yeah, I saw you post on Instagram about that. Like I think you said the guy was selling. He was not a bookseller, but he was a media seller, so he didn't mind
Yeah.
sharing the source. That was so cool to me. Like just the thought of asking him. Were you like, I don't know this guy. I should just ask him.
Yeah, I was like, so I was like, who is like, how does he know I'm a bookseller? Like, how do you figure it out? And I was like, oh, it's in the description that like I'm a bookseller and like I have all this media. I was like, oh, that was stupid. But yeah, like we just started talking and like he's just like, oh, like the place I buy from also has books and like they have a lot of them. Yeah, we should chat. And so like
Hmm.
with all the weather, we didn't get a chance to meet up, but we'll meet probably the upcoming week. We'll see what happens. But yeah, you just never know what could happen from just like a random thing.
Yeah, but you won't know unless you ask, right?
Yeah, like I guess you also think of like no one just buys 20 boxes of DVDs just because. Like
Right.
they're obviously doing something with them.
Yeah. Did you obviously, you don't share your sources, but did you have you said you'll experience everybody will experience a couple of bad sources until they find a good source. Do you have like tips for how to go about finding your source in your area? I know it's going to depend on like how much you can
Yeah.
process, how frequently you can buy, how much money you can spend, things like that.
Yeah, so I'd say that probably the tips are is like start where like So obviously like thrift stores, like if you're going in there spending money, so like I like cold emailed all the thrift stores I went to. I was like, hey, on any given week, I'm spending like $200 to $300 at your store. Like I love to spend like $2,000 or $3,000,
Hmm.
and they're like, oh whoa. It's like, but I want to buy in bulk. So like you got to get their attention like somehow
Yeah.
like that. But like you also have to be like careful. So like my big mistake with the first one was they had them. They weren't scanning. They're selecting what to put in the store. So it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't totally raw, but I'm like, oh, like there's so many books, like it has to work,
Hmm.
but it really didn't work. Um, but like the kicker was like they don't sell textbooks at that store, so like there were a lot of textbooks in those
Hmm.
Gaylords. Um, yeah, I would say so. The going price is probably like between 5 and 10 cents. Um, anything below 5 cents is probably like salvage, like it's been picked through. Like I would
Just
definitely stay away from that. Um, And I would say like a lot of people disagree with this, but I would say like spend money up front. So like don't buy like a truckload. Like it's gonna be more expensive to buy 12 and like to rent the truck, to rent a storage unit, and to rent a pallet jack. And to like, but like if you don't like it, then like you're stuck with all these books. Like you have
Mhm.
like all this stuff you have to get rid of. Like so
Mhm.
like start slow. Like bulk is not for everyone. Like when I first did it, like I loved it. Like I'm never cherry picking again. Like
Yeah.
I just really like this. Like I
Yeah.
like the hunt. Like you could take your time. Like you could kind of go through
Yeah.
eBay. Like, there's so much other stuff you could do.
It seems more
Um,
like you're running a bigger business with bulk, almost like with cherry picking. I feel like there's only so far that one person can go.
yeah, I think that's one thing too. So like yeah, you can only go so far. But like in terms of finding sources, like yeah, I would talk to like the thrift stores you go to. And I think one of the big
Book-
things.
Bookstores or
Yeah,
liquidation.
bookstores. Like you have to be ready. Like you have to have like some like idea in your mind. Like if I was like, "Hey Bella, like, yeah, let's do business." You're like, "Well, like I need to find a storage unit. Like I'm not ready." I'd be like, "Are you kidding? Like, what do you mean you're not ready? Like you just call me." Like you
Mhm.
have to like I had like probably the storage unit I was gonna go into. Like I knew where
Yeah.
to rent the jack. Like I had a helper lined up because like if someone said yes, I want to be like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do this. Like most of the places, it's either cash or check. Like you can't use a credit card. Um,
Yeah. Was it difficult for you to like find the decision maker when you're emailing like thrift stores or bigger stores, like to finally work with them?
um, I didn't have any problem the
Hmm.
first time around. So I would say like another way is like to just always ask people. So like my first source, like I got from like cold emailing someone. And I think they just like route it up. So like you send it to like info at like whatever the hell the thrift store's name is. And then like they'll probably send it to a decision maker because like they're like this person wants to spend like $2,000 or $3,000. Like they're not just gonna delete it.
Right.
And
Right.
then like it kind of roots its way there and then someone will reach out. The
Yeah. Well,
second source I got was through I called a thrift store or I emailed them and they were just like they said like something on their website that like oh like they have like excess books and like basically they recycle them. So I was like, oh, I'll email them and be like, well, I'll take them so you don't have to
mhm.
recycle them. And it turns out they like someone called me like, oh, we sell them in bulk, but they want to do a truckload and like I didn't even know what that was at that
Yeah.
point.
I
And the
I just
guy's like, well, we got it's too small. I was like, well, do you know anyone? And he gave me someone's number, and that person was like the second source.
yeah.
But like
So it was
you
like
kind
kind
of
of a
ask and
trail.
like kind of poke around.
Yeah, it wasn't really linear. It was kind of like you have to be on the lookout, like you said, to figure out like what is the source really. That I think it's good though, because like the harder it is to find it, the least likely that other people will find it.
Yeah, there's like the other source came actually. I was asking a question in the Facebook group, and like there was someone who's like a much bigger seller than me. He's actually like 30 minutes away. Like I don't know exactly what he does, but it's not all Amazon related.
Hmm.
Um, I was like talking about like oh like I was having an issue with like a broker or whatever, and he was just like hey, like send me a DM, and I DM'd him, and he connected me with someone who was like local. So like you just never
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
But like if
yeah.
I was like, oh, like does anyone have a source? Like he would have never DM'd me. So like
No,
you gotta
no.
be like, hey, I tried this. Like I'm having trouble with that. And he was like,
Yeah,
oh, like, I can help you out. Like call
yeah.
this.
And people want to help people who are doing something, not just asking for don't. Hey, John, give me your entire business model.
Yeah, like I love when people do that. Like when they're like, hey, I do what you said, and like this happened. And I'm like, well, like what else like can I help you with? Like what's the next
Yeah,
problem? Like we gotta come overcome here.
Yeah, it's rewarding for sure. Like you said, bulk isn't for everyone, but I wanted people who watch this to kind of get a feel for what it looks like. For me, like cherry picking right now is a little frustrating, but like I guess for the point that I'm at in my life, the trade-offs are going to be, like you said, having to learn all this other systems and a lot of, building something for a couple of years that maybe doesn't make as much money as I want it to make. So there are trade-offs, but I think it's definitely worth it in the long run.
Yeah, I think that's how you almost have to like look at it. Like, and like a lot of it's like situational. Like I just didn't want to travel and like do those trips anymore. Like it just was like too much driving and like just too much for me. And like I just didn't want to do it anymore. So I was like, well, I got to figure it out. And like, you just never know. Like maybe you like wake up tomorrow and like I don't want to do books. Like I just want to do RA. So like I think that's the other thing people have to like realize with bulk. It's like you just really can't back out of it. Like I was like, oh, like I don't want to do bulk anymore. Like, well, now I have a warehouse. Like I have some equipment. Like you just can't be like, well, I'm not going to thrift stores anymore. Like you just gotta.
Yeah.
So like, you gotta like think.
Yeah.
Like
You're also set up to run really any kind of Amazon FBA business you want to run. Like if you want to get into importing things or something like that later on, you can.
oh, I definitely like thought about that too because I was like, oh, but I was like, well, like I would need space anyway. And, like doing OA, like it seems like an easy like venture from like a house until like you get all these packages and like you don't really have like sufficient like space for all these boxes and of course you're a reseller, you want to like save the boxes for like just in
Oh, yeah.
case. So like then you just end up with a pile, and then like you throw them out. You're like, oh, if I just had that one box I threw out.
Size. I always throw out the wrong one. I'm in my office now, and that's pretty much what I just work out of a room. I mean, I have a house, but I don't want to clutter my entire house with inventory. So, kind of have everything shipped. I try to ship as much as I can into Amazon, and then a couple things here that are eBay sales that are worth it. But for the most part, I process everything in like a 400 square foot room. So
that's basically what I had for like my like home office. And basically had everything eBay on there. I had like list books and like yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. Like if you let it like pile up, like it's tough. Like you definitely lose interest, let's say.
yeah,
You're like excited you're gonna make like $5 on each of these items, and then like like someone tanks the price. You're like, oh, I should even
yeah,
send this in. Like just like send it in and like get it
yeah.
over with.
I've had rules with myself for years. Like I don't go sourcing until I've processed what I bought from the last sourcing trip. Otherwise, like it would just become a disaster.
Yeah, that is really so like I am a little nervous about like eBay stuff now because like when I was out of the storage unit, like you had to get it done in a week. So like there was nowhere to put like, oh, like I need to do a little more research on this, or like, oh, maybe I'll save these for like to get some other sets from this set or whatever. But like I'm gonna try to like keep it like everything has to be listed for the most
Yeah,
part.
the best of the best. Well, I definitely want to see you make a YouTube channel. You could even do like I think it'd be so cool to go through your warehouse when you get it all set up to just kind of be like a day in the life of a bulk bookseller.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna do it. I think I'm pretty sure I started it. I just have to like start adding videos and then like yeah, I think like once I have more time, like this last geez, like 2, 3 months, just like finding the warehouse, like buying all this stuff, like still like keeping the Amazon business like running and like sending books in has been like
Yeah.
crazy, but like there's definitely like a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, good job for doing all of that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It
Yeah.
is a good job or not.
Yeah, well, a year from now, you probably will be like, I'm glad I did all of that. It was a lot of work, but now I'm here in this place. So,
Yeah, it's definitely funny. Like when I got the storage unit, like I was very like nervous. Like, is this the right thing to do? Like I'm starting to feel like all that like nervous. Oh, should I really buy that piece of equipment? Like, but like a year from now, I'm like, oh, that was the best thing I've ever done. But like, you
yeah,
just kind of like trying to like hang in there, like be a little uncomfortable and like trying
yeah.
to work your way through it.
Well, that's cool. Thanks for sharing all of that. There's definitely nothing that I've ever bought for my business that I regretted later, like nothing. So,
Yeah, no, it's pretty much the same here. It's just like, yeah, like this was definitely worth it.
all righty. Well, I guess we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for coming on. You've been
Of course,
like
this reminded me.
It's been awesome. I've never talked to you in person before, so I kind of wanted to pick your brain and stuff. And I see you on Instagram, so if you guys want to follow John, his name is up here on the screen. Side Hustle Experiment on Instagram, and you've also going to be having a YouTube channel. So your YouTube channel, just send me the link when you get everything set up, and I'll put it in the description of this video as well.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And like, yeah, maybe I'll have you on the channel.
Yeah, you can definitely interview me. You can be like a small scale bookseller.
No, I mean, that's the one thing. Everyone starts with one book. So I
That's
mean,
true. That's true. Well, thank you so much. Well, good luck with everything. Maybe we will get an update from you in a couple of months, see where you're at.
yeah, definitely. I would definitely do that.
Okay. All right. Well, signing off, guys. Thanks so much for watching.